Hello, hello, and welcome back to Influential Dental, the podcast which is bringing you the human side of really influential dental professionals who are really making a difference in this industry. And I am so excited and thrilled to welcome our guest today. But before I do that, I'll do a quick introduction. My name is Julianne O'Connor. I normally would be here with my co-host, Michael Keeter, who is having a little bit of technical difficulty since he is traveling right now. So this is going to be on my own with the amazing John McCarthy, who I'm thrilled to invite onto our show, who is working in this industry doing incredible things. And I'm going to have you do a little introduction, if you don't mind, John, and then we can just banter and let people know what you're doing, because it's really making an impact. It's really something special. And it's a little bit unique from anybody else that we've brought on the show so far. And so we kind of moved you to the front of the line. So we're super thrilled to have you. Welcome, John.
Well, first of all, Juliana, it's just a thrill to be on. What an honor to be on with you and on such a credible national broadcast podcast. So thank you, first of all. And my name's John McCarthy. I serve as executive director with Team Smile. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to provide children in need with a life-changing dental experience through the power of sports. In layman's terms, we throw dental tailgate parties. So we work with teams in professional sports to set up large-scale dental clinics all over America in stadiums and arenas to serve those in great need by bringing together, give or take, about 125 to 175 volunteers, serving about 200 to 225 children in a single day. And it's awesome when all the pieces come together with a DJ and face painters, and we bring out players, cheerleaders, mascots, and give these children a special experience and take the fear out of dentistry. So the Team Smile model is pretty darn special. And this year alone, in 2025, we expect to conduct roughly 35 programs all over America and serve about 7,000 children with the huge help from about 4,000 volunteers from all over America. So that's it in a nutshell, but we'll dig into some of the details as we go on. So again, thanks for having me on. It's a real thrill.
Yeah, it is such a pleasure. So John, it's funny because when I met you, you were actually running one of these events, and I believe, I want to say, was it at Thrive Live? Is that
Oh,
where I met you? Yeah.
yes.
So last year at Thrive Live, and I'll be speaking at Thrive Live this year as well. I'm thrilled. I was able to speak last year, but somebody invited me kind of on the fly to your event. And I had no idea that I was going to be surrounded by all these celebrities. So I walked in and I was like, whoa, where am I? And it was really a special experience because the heartfelt experience of everybody just pouring into what this is all about was really, really, really genuine. And so you have these celebrities and they're getting up on the mic and they're sharing their experiences and why they are supporting this organization when they could be supporting so many other organizations, right? And you yourself are one of these people. You're a people guy. Like, you are the guy. I mean, when we watch you speak, it's so funny because you are just that person who's got this dynamic. So anybody who's tuning into this podcast and can't see you, they're not going to know what I'm talking about really, but they'll hear it in your voice. And I would say watch the video too. But you're one of these guys who has this just incredible, dynamic, genuine personality that people are drawn to. So I would say behind these events and these organizations, there's these people who have these incredible hearts behind what they're doing in order to get people at that level to play, if you know what I mean. And so tell me a little bit about that. Why are you that way, and what made this organization stand out for you?
Yeah, that's a real good point. But first of all, thank you for those kind words. That's awfully nice of you. But I just enjoy people, and I enjoy being able to be surrounded by people with really good hearts. You can feel it when you're around people that have a good heart, that want to make a real difference in the world. And fortunately, in this world, I've been able to be surrounded by a lot of wonderful people with great hearts. You think the people that I get to deal with are people on our board of directors that are here on our board to help serve those in need. I get to deal with a staff that spends their days serving children in need. And importantly, we get to spend our time with literally thousands of volunteers throughout the country that are showing up in stadiums and arenas, taking their day off of work often to serve children that really need the help. And so I'm just so fortunate to be surrounded by people with wonderful hearts. Um, on the whole, I think I've been also quite fortunate um, to naturally be somebody that has a positive nature, that genuinely wants to leave this world better than I found it, that genuinely wants to make a difference in the world. And the Team Smile platform, I'm very well aware, gives me that opportunity and that platform. But I'm also well aware that this our organization doesn't just happen because of me by any means at all. It happens because of 4,000 volunteers. It happens because of our staff. It happens in great part because of our partners that provide the resources to make it happen. And so honestly, I'm just blessed with the platform to be
Okay.
able to be in that position.
So I love that you operate with complete humility, and I'm really, I appreciate that so much. But you have a major amount of huge, very very influential people who are supporting you and this organization. But just for our listeners to clarify really quickly, can you just explain what it is that this organization does, because it is touching and beautiful, and the lives that it's changing are it's significant. And so do you mind just giving that clarity, and then we'll dive into a little bit more about you personally, because you do have a huge part to say, play in this, I should say. And then let's talk about some of the people that have supported this, because we want to sort of give them some props as well, and some of the organizations that have stepped up to be a part of this, because all of this, I think, matters. And although this is a short show, we don't do super long episodes. I'd love to also then invite you to come back, and maybe we can bring some of the people who've supported on with you or something. So, but yeah, tell our listeners, what is this organization doing?
Yeah, wonderful. So, in a nutshell, I'm going to combine a couple of those answers into our story, if you will, but because does involve some of the people that have helped this make it a reality, and at the same time tells the story of what we do. So this it really started with the DeMonte Driver story. Roughly 2006, DeMonte Driver, 12-year-old boy just outside of DC, single mother, no insurance, and their son DeMonte had a toothache. So mother wanted to take him to the dentist, except she didn't have dental insurance and she didn't have much money, so she didn't take him. It got really painful, so she eventually took him to the hospital. Hospital wasn't able to do a whole lot for DeMonte that day, and sent him home. And that it really becomes an emotional story because that pain became infected. That infection spread to his brain, and at 12 years old, DeMonte Driver passed away. This
Oh,
became an NBC nightly news special with Brian Williams. And Dr. Bill Bush at home in Kansas City comes home from the office one day and sees this on TV. And he was moved. He was mad, got angry. He's saying, how does this happen in our country? We're supposed to be the richest country in the world. A little boy needed a simple extraction. He would have been fine. And started thinking about what can I do to make a difference? I can't bring DeMonte back, but what can I do to make a difference in my own community? And he started thinking, and I know this story well because I spent a lot of time with Dr. Bush with him telling me many iterations of this story. He started thinking about the fabric of every major community in the country, and he thought it's sports. And he happened to really enjoy sports as well. So he pitched an idea to the Kansas City Chiefs of basically being able to use Arrowhead Stadium and bringing out some of the players to run a dental clinic. But he needed support in terms of additional dentists, so he called some of his friends. He knew he needed some supplies and he needed equipment to make it work. So he called his friend Jason Krause at Henry Schein. He ran it up the totem pole at Schein. Schein provides a lot of the equipment and supplies to begin with. They knew they needed some dollars to make this work as well. So they got in touch with Colgate. Colgate brought their van out to the very first program. So Colgate, Henry Schein, Dr. Bill Bush, Jason Krause came together to run the first Team Smile program in 2007 with the Kansas City Chiefs. And that was the intent. I've asked him this many times, Dr. Bush, about did you ever expect this to blow up and grow like it has? And he said, honestly, no, I wanted to do something with the Chiefs. I thought it'd be impactful and do something in our own community once a year would be great. Well, the Chiefs share a parking lot with the Kansas City Royals. The Royals heard about this and thought, hey, that's pretty cool. Can you come do that here? So one program became two. Well, once you had a team in the NFL and Major League Baseball, Others started hearing about it. 2 became 4 a few years in, and then it began to take off. I got involved as executive director in 2017. We had grown to the point we had 19 programs. Pandemic hits, and it impacted us like it did most of the country and the world for that matter. Coming out of the pandemic, we've hired a new program team of people. We had 23 programs. 23 programs early on, and 16 programs in 2023, 25 last year in 2024. We're going to go to 35 this year. But real quickly on the details, I want to just illustrate a couple important pieces of this. A lot of people initially, when they hear about, hey, a dental clinic, isn't that neat? They go do screenings or do cleanings, let them know what they need, and send them to the doctor to get it. We travel around with a 53-foot semi truck that is just completely packed with $600,000 to $700,000 worth of dental equipment and supplies. So we actually do the dental work on site. So if a child comes in, we have them go through and get their mouth washed, and then go through an exam, go through X-ray, and then diagnose what they need. If they need to have 2 teeth extracted, we do it. If they need 5 cavities filled, we do it. If they need a pulpotomy, we do it right there in the stadium and arenas around the country. The other piece I want to emphasize is that when I started, the first bit was to make sure that we become stable financially, we become stable and uniformed and do a good job with our programs. But I also began to get asked a lot from our board, what's next and what else can we do for these children? What happens when we pack up that equipment and move on to the next town? What happens with those children? That's between that conversation with our board and a conversation with Marianne Kozlowski from DentaQuest. The Dental Home Project was born. Dental Home Project, now powered by DentaQuest. They funded us with $250,000 to start, have continued to fund us. What the Dental Home Project means in a nutshell is that on the consent forms from the children, we have now added a question that simply says, do you have a dentist? And mom and dad check yes or no. We pull out at the end of each program all the no's that don't have a dentist. Erica Hill, our dental home director, builds a dental home network based on the zip code of the children, where they come from, to help connect them with a dentist, a FQHC, a dental school, individual dentist that will serve them for free or take their Medicaid for the continuative care after we move on to the next town. And I do want to tell you that when we started that, we heard every story in the book on why this won't work. Apathy from the parents are working 2 or 3 jobs, transportation, and they're all real. There's real challenges in getting a child, once you leave town, to the dentist. But I'm really pleased to be able to sit here and tell you today that since we came out of the pandemic and launched this program, we've connected over 4,000 children with a dentist that didn't have one that walked into our program, and over 3,300 of them have showed up for their first appointment. So it's working. So
that's an incredible show rate. Also in terms of percentages. So many things, okay, to unpack there, right? First of all, I mean, starting with the Kansas City Chiefs to the Royals to already, you're surrounded by this powerhouse of people who care, right? And then on top of it, you got Henry Schein, who's significantly involved, right? And then you go to Colgate, to whoever else. So there's so many things that so many directions we could go on this. The program itself is beautiful, right? I know that I heard you share some stories, one in particular that really, oh my gosh, made me cry, literally. And I'm sure you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But I think it might be an interesting story to share for our listeners, if you're open to it, about something that is just, unsuspecting that is happening, because those of us who are privileged, if you will, to not understand how serious the need is, might not know how, these kinds of things could possibly happen. But, I'm somebody who comes out of doing foster care where, you see these children have been neglected in terms of their dental care. And I've seen some of these kinds of stories, actually happen. So I know it's real. But do you mind sharing the story? I won't say anything about it because I don't want to give the final part of this until you share the story from the beginning. But if you don't mind sharing, I think it will
certainly will
impact people.
As you may guess, I have a number of stories, but I know which one you're referring to.
Yeah.
So in Kansas City with the Royals, ironically, not too long ago, since I mentioned them, we had a boy that was 10 years old in the dental chair. And when the dentist looked in his mouth, one of the first things he noticed was a screw in his gum, literally a metal screw lodged in the little boy's gum. And he did the logical thing, and so he extracted the screw. And then he asked the logical question to the little boy is, how did the screw get in your gum? And it gets to me each time because the little boy looked up at him and said, I was hungry. Turns out he was eating Matchbox cars. And this just really hit me because when our model works well, and it often does, it typically does, if you can picture what's surrounding that little boy at that time, are all these dentists and hygienists and dental assistants and volunteers that care. And you've got the music going from a DJ. You've got face painters and players and cheerleaders and mascots, and it's an exciting, uplifting experience. And that's what it's supposed to be. We're supposed to take the fear out of dentistry, make it fun, bring the cool back to dentistry, if you will. And it works. But what's easy to forget is that when we're doing our job well, we're also very much targeting children in real need. And it's easy to forget where that child just came from in the morning and where that child's going home to at night. And that story just brought that back to me, that while everything surrounding this boy on that day is fun and exciting and uplifting, but the reality hits when the boy's eating metal cars because he's
Yeah.
so hungry.
I mean, that story just broke my heart to hear it. But, of course, we hear these stories, right? And I think we become numb almost sometimes when we're in the industry and we hear so many stories, and you see where dentists are, they have to turn people away all the time, right? Which is why these organizations are so important to have funding to be able to support them. But you also have dentists who have come to the table and said, hey, we're going to be that dentist who will give a home to some of these people, correct? How does somebody do that? So we have a lot of dentists that tune into the show. We have CEOs of big organizations, as you know, founders, you name it. We've got very, very influential people who are not only tuning in, but who will be involved with being participants and guests on this show. So how does a dentist in particular, and I have a lot of these practices who don't even know where to give back because they're almost on overwhelm. They don't even take the time out to decide where to give back. And so where can they, go to, and how can they support you?
Wonderful question. And thanks for the opportunity with that. So 2 things. Number one, first and foremost, go to teamsmile.org, www.teamsmile.org. And there's 2 primary ways that a dentist can help. It can be more than that, but 2 primary. Number one is just go to look at our programs. There's a tab that says programs or the volunteer tab, and look for a program near you, or be a roadie and come on out. We get a bit of that, by the way. If people get a temporary license for a day and go.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be a roadie on this show? Because I mean, you're surrounded by incredible people who, we all idolize and put on a pedestal.
Yep. And so look up our programs and volunteer at a local program, and you'll see, gosh, if you clicked on it at this moment, 15 programs on there. We'll continue to add more as the year goes along. But come on out and volunteer. That's one, because we really need a dental clinic doesn't work very well without dentists. So it's really important that we bring dentists on board to help us serve those children. So that's one important way. And number 2 is become part of the Dental Home Project. Just shoot me an email. I'll connect you with the right person, our dental home director. But my email is johnjohn@teamsmile.org. It's on the website as well if you forget. And just shoot me a note, and we can get you connected with our dental home director, Erica Hill, to become part of that, to help serve those children. So even if you're not able to volunteer on that day, you're working, you're busy, you're on vacation, you're just not able to volunteer that day, but you want to help children in your community, you can tell us how many children you'll take. I realize that an individual practice may not be able to take as much as a FQHC, but you can tell us in the course of a year, we'll help with 10 children or 15 or 20. So either volunteer for a Team Smile program if you're a dentist, or become part of our dental home network if you're a dentist, to help those children going forward.
Right. And I'm sure people can donate as well, of course, and all of that. But so let me ask you. So one of the things that I come across a lot, because I do a lot of leadership training and I do a lot with teams, right? So we're doing elite team training courses and that type of thing. And everybody's trying to figure out how to build the culture in their dental practices, right? And one of the things that always comes up is, any opportunity where a team can come together and support an organization like this, where they can not only come out of their own headspace of their own dramas, right, but where they can really bond by giving back. So can an entire team get involved with volunteering? And is there anything special they have to do if they want to do that?
I'm smiling a bit because Julianne, we get this a lot. We get this from our partners. We get this from dental offices very much saying, we're looking for opportunities. We can do this together as whether 5 of us, 10 of us, 15, 20 of us. And we get that a lot where we'll get a dental office on a Friday that will close the office, or sometimes they're closed anyway on a Friday, to come on out to the stadium. And what's neat is it happens just organically, and it's as opposed to saying we're going to have a meeting and we're going to talk about culture. Well, let's bring 15 or 20 of you out and serve those that are underprivileged. It becomes a bit of a bonding experience unto itself. While they're having a great time too, they're saying, geez, if we're going to do something good in the community, wouldn't it be kind of good, be nice to do that with our local NFL team or Major League Baseball team or NBA team? And so, yes, we get that quite a bit. We encourage that going forward with dental offices, with our partners. Bring a group out to volunteer. We honestly, and here's the other part of that we typically get asked is, how many volunteers do you need? How many dentists do you need, et cetera? For a full program, we're seeking about 20 to 22 dentists, 20 to 22 dental hygienists, the same thing for dental assistants. We often incorporate dental school students and hygiene school students, and then in the ballpark of 40 to 60 general volunteers that don't necessarily need to be clinicians as well, all coming together. So we really could use dental offices to come on out as in an entirety, even those that are in the front office, if you will, to come and help with our program.
So, okay, so you guys are out there, and I love this. I want to get in a little bit to your personal story as well before we wrap up today, but really quickly, so that I understand. So, you have these programs kind of going on. You can find them on the website, obviously, at teamsmile.org. But you have what, 30 something programs this year?
Be
And
about 35 by the time we're said and done. That's correct.
okay. So they're nationwide, they're across the board, or so somebody could, I mean, could they fly their team somewhere, and would that be worth doing? And, or, should they wait until one comes to their local community? How do people, I guess it's up to the individuals.
Correct. So the easiest thing for people to do is say, hey, we're going to do something in our community. It's 10, 15, 20 minutes down the road in a local stadium. That's the easiest. That said, I always think it's kind of cool when a dentist or when somebody says, hey, this is so much fun. I've been wanting to go to that stadium, or I'm going to go visit a friend and I'm going to go do something good on a day. We've just had a dental office bring pretty much their whole office, about 20 to 25 people from Kansas City down to our program at the University of Arkansas last year. It was Dr. Bush as their co-founder, closed the office, brought hygienists, brought dentists, it was literally, they took a bus and came down to our University of Arkansas for the day. Frankly, we needed extra clinical volunteers, and he brought literally about 20 people from his office down to volunteer
So,
at that program.
so that's awesome. So they can actually organize their own event
Well,
and work with you guys.
we organized the event.
Okay.
We needed more clinical volunteers, so we just coordinated with the office saying, okay, how many do you want to bring down?
Gotcha.
And we'll make sure we order the t-shirts for everybody, the scrubs for the dentist. We give the dentist top and bottom scrubs for volunteering as well.
Yeah.
And so we just coordinated it with them to come on down. And so that was just really helpful for us. And frankly, it was a great experience for them. They had 3 or 4 hours on the bus together on the way down. They go eat together. They volunteer together. They take the trip back together. Just like you referenced a moment ago, what a cool bonding experience for that dental office, where it wasn't just a meeting talking about culture. It was
Right.
living it.
So it could be anywhere, though. It could be like you guys could be doing something at the Raiders stadium or the Dodgers stadium or anywhere, any sports team, anybody, anywhere. It could be like, so we really need to visit the website and see what's coming up. Number one, figure out who we're fans of, right? Get you out to the Rose Bowl because that's my backyard. And yeah, so I love it. So let's talk about you for a second. Okay, so John, you've been doing this since what, 2017? Is that what I
That's
heard?
correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
And what about before this? What were you doing? Were you in the dental field before this or not?
Not at all.
Really?
I've been in collegiate athletics. I coached college basketball. I was assistant coach, I was a head coach, became part of the NCAA basketball committee to run the Division II basketball tournament, moved to Kansas City to run the NAI National Basketball Championship, the longest running collegiate championship of any sport in America. So that was just a thrill to run that. Um, but I had a little bit of an itch to speak and to write and to impact coaches around the country, similar to what you're doing in terms of coaching, if you will. And so I wrote three booklets. One of them took off pretty good, called Lessons of the Legends, What We Learned from America's Great Coaches. And I created a 2.5 to 3 hour presentation as part of it. So I began to travel the country when I left the NAI, literally all over the country from coast to coast, to work with coaching groups when they have their summer retreats for conferences or individual coaching staffs of different universities around the country. And I go give them the presentation on what we learned from some of America's great coaches that are applicable, whether you're coaching women's soccer or softball or men's basketball or football. So I did that for a number of years, and I really enjoyed that to a great extent. And it led me into it eventually to a nonprofit in Kansas City that I ended up connecting with called Charlie's House. And about, I guess, it's been 11, 12 years ago now, became the executive director of a relatively small nonprofit. And so I did that for 4 years. We raised the funds to build America's first demonstration home for child safety. And so it was about child safety. Pizza and beer one night with Dr. Bill Bush. Our wives went to a church retreat together, got to know each other, ended up out with three couples and kids one night about 8 or 9 years ago. And after talking for a while, Dr. Bush had said, "We got to figure this out." And I said, "Figure what out?" And he said, "We need to figure out how to get you over to Team Smile with your involvement with athletics for so long and understanding how to run a nonprofit. You've been doing that for years now. This kind of checks the box of what we're looking for." And so fast forward, I don't know, 6 months or so, and I was in front of the board of directors and ended up becoming the executive director with Team Smile. So it's
Well,
been a
yeah, and your
wonderful journey.
connections coming out of that industry probably didn't hurt. I mean, you know how to talk to people, right? You know how to talk to people in that industry, right? From that world, and you're not intimidated by it, which I think is an interesting thing in dentistry. We see a lot of people who are very much intimidated to ask for help, to ask to contribute, to do a lot of things, right? One of the things that comes up over and over again is that people want to be taught how to be more confident, even in their clinical skills, like how to take a leap of faith. You've taken all the training, but you keep taking courses and you don't try it, right? And so the confidence piece plays in heavily. But you know, we go way back sometimes, and I wish Michael was here to be joining me in this because we usually get a little personal. But where'd you grow up? What's your, you know, did your parents teach you to be this way, or what's your secret to what you know has kind of evolved into this career in terms of your personality? Or you know, did you suffer hardships? Were there things that you overcame that could be impactful for our listeners to hear your journey a little bit?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, and that's great of you to ask. So I grew up, I was born in the Philly area, moved as a young child to Northeast Ohio. And I, to answer your question in a little bit briefer manner, I know I tend to get on a roll sometimes, but I had good parents. I have really good parents, and I have two. I'm the oldest of three brothers that get along quite well. And I listened to my parents. I listened to my teachers. Listened to my coaches growing up. I learned a lot of lessons between my parents, my teachers, my coaches, and through athletics. Honestly, I was played quarterback in football and was captain of the high school basketball team, and just I was one of those that really absorbed and soaked in what the coaches would say and would really listen to them. And I think a lot of the lessons that we can learn when you're surrounded by good coaches and you're surrounded by good teachers and good parents. Um, on the whole, I realized that I certainly was not born with a silver spoon by any means. We were middle class and early on in life, almost below a little bit, but we never had to worry about a meal, a roof over our head, clothes, the basics at all. But I had really good parents that, you know, a lot of people talk about you should do this, you should do that. My dad lived it. And so I got to see the example of what hard work looked like. I got to see what hard work looked like by some of my teammates in sports, by my coaches, by my teachers. I had learned this lesson as even more so emphasized as I was preparing to my own presentation for the Lessons of the Legends, that it's the lessons that people learn from one to another are much better learned, much more influential when people live it as opposed to just talk about it. We learn a lot by observing the actions of others. And so if you want to be a better whatever, husband, wife, parent, brother, sister, whatever, executive, be a better me. Focus on becoming a better you. The better you are, now you begin to attract other people with like values and like ethics. And so I think as I've grown and hopefully matured, I've really worked on becoming a better me, a better, more ethical, more moral, showing the work ethic, and I tend to therefore attract others that have a like mindset
Yeah.
as well.
So there's a couple of things I want to unpack there. Okay. So number one, I never operate without a coach. So I am a coach and I always have a coach, hands down. And I always believed, and sports are such a great example, right? Because it's so tangible that everybody who's great has a coach, and oftentimes many coaches, right? And sometimes when I'm coaching high achievers, they have two or three other coaches besides myself, right? And so they get coaches in different areas wherever they want to be excellent or excel or whatever the case might be. So there's so much to be said about that. But one of the things that is always interesting is not everybody comes from this, this parental background, right? And so sometimes it's hard for people to understand that people who haven't been through those tremendous hardships actually can offer a lot of value as well, because they want to relate to somebody, right? But when you surround yourself with great people, you always end up with this mix of people who've been through all of it, and everybody has value in a different way to add, and so let's talk about that a little bit. So for example, Michael and I can both tell you that we grew up dirt poor. Like I was the one that was like sifting weevils off of off the ramen noodles, water to eat my ramen noodles. I could tell you stories you wouldn't even want to hear, right? But some of my greatest lessons came from much simpler things in life, things that came up throughout life, things that were recurring. They came from coaches and they came from mentors, and being able to observe and listen. And sometimes I think when we haven't suffered the hardship, what happens is it takes us longer to change because our brain is so wired on the norm, right? That we have to shift more slowly even. But just, do you have one or two examples of, things that maybe you struggled with? Because nobody's immune from it. We know that from studies that children can be impacted and traumatized by a movie, right? So there's nobody who's immune from having to overcome big challenges and obstacles in life. And so we like to talk about it because then it reminds people that, hey, none of us just have a silver spoon. And, even if we did, I guarantee the perspective is that there's something that has happened. I guarantee it. So anything that comes up for you, and again, you don't have to get too personal, but anything that gave you a really, like profound moment?
Um, there's a number, but I just,
Always.
yes, I really want to emphasize something you just said that is so true. When you dig into people's stories, as you're doing here and throughout it, the one thing that I've learned is probably similar to you. And I just want to emphasize this, that even when you see the most polished executive that's making a lot of money, has the beautiful family and so on, I can almost assure you, and I know you've dug into this a lot, that person's been through challenges too. We're all human. We all have challenges, whether it is as a spouse, whether it's as a parent, a brother, whatever it may be. There may be family challenges, there may be job challenges. Certainly, I've things have not been easy all the time. In sports, you get beat at times, and that doesn't seem like an obstacle very much. But what people don't see, and I've picked this up from some others, people talk about the proverbial overnight success. I'm not sure there is such a thing other than, I don't know, winning the lottery. I'm not even sure that's considered success, that somebody gave you a big check. But in the fact that people may see, I'm probably not a particularly good example, but maybe somebody that's done extremely well in life. And what they don't see is the incredible time and effort they've put in to getting there. What people don't see about the times when I was coaching, for example, is when I get home on a bus at 3 o'clock in the morning with the team, and I'm in the office right from there writing recruiting letters to try to get the next round of recruits, and not leaving the office until I pick up the morning newspaper for the next morning on the way out. What people don't see is the incredible amount of time and effort it takes to write booklets, to prepare for presentations that are going to take a couple hours, to give a 2.5 or 3 hour speech or presentation. It didn't take 2.5 hours to prepare that. I can assure you, and you're well aware. But almost everybody has challenges, and what I've learned is the important part is how you react to it. We're all going to have challenges. I can assure you, in this role at Team Smile, there have been a lot of challenges that nobody sees. And I want to be a little sensitive to mentioning some of them because they involve people,
Of course.
most of them. But there are real challenges we've faced. I will give you just one example. One of the things I probably should have done when I took this job was ask a little bit more about the finances. Um, Again, without going into great detail, so I don't say anything I'm not supposed to say, we were in trouble financially when I took this job, and I didn't know it until I dug into. I started the job and got into it. We were in real trouble. Uh, Within 18 to 24 months, we tripled our revenue, and we've been doing quite well since that point. But we're all going to have challenges. We're going to have challenges in our personal life, challenges. It really is about how we react to them. And I do want to share one quick thing I think is really important, and that is this: be grateful. Wherever you are in life, wake up in the morning and be grateful for what you have. It is amazing how much better you feel about yourself when you're able to take your time to lift other people up. And I'm going to share with you something I did personally that has just made a really neat difference for me and hopefully for a few others. And I don't recall exactly where I got this idea, but on the grateful topic, I just thought that it would be a neat exercise at one point to take the time to write to the people as I was growing up that made an impact in my life. And what I did was once a month for a year, 12 times, I decided to write a letter to somebody who influenced me in life and sent them on what they did and how they influenced me in my life. My high school basketball coach, my football coach, other people in life. And I saved the last one for my dad, which got pretty emotional for me. But what was something I wanted to be able to express to them how much they meant to me and how they made such a difference in my life. What I didn't expect out of that exercise was the letter back, the call back, the response from others. And I would just share with you one of those responses from somebody who was massively influential in my life. And he is still today somebody I look at and think, this guy is sort of the pinnacle of his profession, and just somebody I looked up to in a great way. He ended up calling back after he got the letter and telling me that it was one of the most influential. I mean, here's a guy who's a multi-gazillionaire who's got this model family and ends up sending a note back, or I think he called back saying that this was one of the most influential notes or letters he's ever gotten in his life. And he's going to keep that and hide it away in his house with the hopes that his children find that when he passes away so that they realize the difference he made in one person's life. And I thought,
That's,
I just, I just wanted to be grateful to those that helped me genuinely. And here
yeah.
it was coming back to, I'm getting chills as I'm even mentioning this, but I just wanted to share with you and your listeners that I just find great value in being grateful, and not only being grateful, but sharing that gratitude with others that have made a difference for you. It's made
I
a
love
difference for me.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. So, a practice that I've been doing, and I love the gratitude and the that element as well. The other practice that I've been experimenting with is letters of forgiveness. And when I first started with that practice, I was laughing because I was like, "There's nobody I haven't forgiven," And then you start inventorying, going, "Oh, wait a second. There's that one time that was just that one thing that made me kind of go, and what happens is when you write these letters of forgiveness, where really you've forgiven yourself for having held a grudge or having made something out of something that really is not somebody else's meaning, right? And And what has happened is it's opened up this world with some people that I had cut off from my life, and really probably liberated them equally, in some cases, and really freed myself from having ever, thought that there was some reason to even hold these grudges, right? And so the gratitude piece, I think, is the next level. I'm going to play with that now too, because I think, even writing a thank you letter, it just never seems to happen anymore, right? I've even gone so far as to do forgiveness letters to people who are deceased using chat gpt, knowing full well I can't send it, but just to let myself off the hook, right? But I love the idea of sending a gratitude letter. And and with AI, it's not complicated anymore. But if we want to do a handwritten note, I think it's really special. And because nobody, it's like the lost art, right? Sending thank you letters or notes.
And ironically, it's interesting. We're doing this reverse of each other. My next step, I have a file on my own personal computer about forgiveness as well.
Ah,
And I began to do that after I did my gratitude. And looks like you're going to do the forgiveness first and gratitude afterwards. But I agree. Both of those things are just, it may be a little bit of self relief as well on the forgiveness side. The gratitude side, I it was an interesting exercise in the fact that I wasn't expecting the return. I was wanting to just make sure that those people knew how much they meant to me, and I wanted to put it in
right.
writing. And I just wasn't expecting the return. And it's amazing. I had heard that a while ago that the more that you give, the more that you tend to receive, and especially if you don't do it with the intention of receiving. And that goes for a lot of things. It's not just a letter. I think just in general, if you're grateful, you show gratitude, and you really try to do for others and make a difference for others. And this is a funny thing about life. The more that you do for others, the better you tend to feel about yourself. And
Yeah,
it's kind of I almost
absolutely.
feel guilty because I don't want to do it for that purpose, but that's a byproduct of it. You feel better about yourself when you do more for others.
Right. Well, listen, I know we're out of time. I'm really sorry that Michael Keeter couldn't join us today. He's awesome. I want to give a quick shout out to American Dental Institute, who is, the responsible really for having Michael Keeter and me become a partner with them on this podcast, which has turned into something we never dreamed that it would turn into. When we first started, we all just thought that it'd be fun and it would be personal and special to be able to share people's journeys. But it's such a gift to have you on the show today. And I definitely want to have you back, if you don't mind, when Michael can be back on, when he's not traveling and dealing with tech issues. Any one last thing that you'd like to leave our listeners with today, and then we'll have you share your contact information one more time and where they can go for Team Smile and how they can get involved one last time. And then we'll wrap up and we'll definitely bring you back. So thank you so much, John, for being here. And if you don't mind, just give our listeners one last piece of wisdom, advice, or something that you would like to be left with. Or if you could have told yourself, your younger self something, what would it have been? Something like that. Just leave our listeners with a little gem, and then your contact information. We'll go from there.
Yes, I want to share with you something I learned from Coach Don Meyer just before he passed away. He knew I was using him as an example in my Lessons of the Legends presentation. I asked him, he had cancer and he didn't have much time left. And I said, what do you want me to articulate to coaches around the country on your behalf? What do you want people to know? And he had so many writings, and it was such a prominent coach, Coach Don Meyer. And he said, remind coaches, and I think this goes well beyond coaches, to executives, to people in general. Your example is not just the main thing in influencing people, it's the only thing. And I think when I was 18, 20, 22, 24 years old, I thought I was a fairly good speaker and connected with people quite well, but I don't think I really understood the value and importance of your example, the way you live your life, the way you treat your spouse, you treat your children, you treat other people. Your example is not the main thing in influencing people; it's the only thing. And so I think that's really important. And the last thing I'll leave people with, and I think this is important, my gratitude to you for giving this other Irish guy an opportunity to come on and share with you as well. This is really a real honor. So I express my gratitude to you. And as you mentioned, in terms of contact info, it's John McCarthy. My email is johnjoehn@teamsmile.org. Our website is teamsmile.org, www.teamsmile.org. And once again, really so much gratitude to you. Thank you, Julianne.
Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Insta at Spelling It, just like it sounds, at Spelling It. And then also check out AmericanDentalInstitute.com. They will have another event coming at the end of the year. And just a huge shout out and gratitude to everybody who has supported Team Smile thus far and everybody who is going to come on board and support moving forward. And if you're one of my clients or you're somebody who's interested in getting involved and you want somebody to support you, putting the team together and really figuring out how that translates to, team culture, then I'm happy to, for no charge, reach out and really I will pour into your team on how to kind of make that make sense and see what you guys can get out of that in terms of giving back. So thank you, John. Really appreciate you being here. It's been a pleasure. And we so appreciate you guys joining us on Influential Dental. Join us next time for the next amazing guest from this industry who will pour into you with some of their personal story. And thank you to, what is your dog's name?
Buster, for his
Buster,
contributions today.
we appreciate you being our third. That was kind of like the co-host today. So,
Yeah, right.
Thank
we,
you so
we roll
much.
with it, working from home a lot of times, huh?
Absolutely. All right. Take care.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.